So how do I begin this story? A story about reality, or what I believe to be the true nature of reality. This story is really about a journey from the known to the unknowable. A search for something lost, forgotten, hidden in plain sight. If pressed to name it, then I would describe it as the pearl of great price, the rarest of treasures. Again, if asked what it would take to obtain this pearl, I would answer everything. Everything you are and everything you believe yourself to be. I doubt there would be many takers. So what is reality? That which is real. I could start by outlining what we all take reality to be. It would go something like this. 8 billion of us share this planet called Earth. It's one of 9 planets orbiting a sun in our local solar system. It, in turn, is part of the Milky Way galaxy, home to over 200 billion stars. Our galaxy began life over 13 billion years ago, initiated by an event called the Big Bang. From a tiny point of nothing, in the space of a second, a massive explosion gave birth to an ever-expanding universe. The observable universe is said to contain over 2 trillion galaxies. But this number could be many times larger, as the observable universe, or cosmic horizon, is but a fraction of the total area, or volume, of what is believed to exist. At this present time, the diameter of the observable universe stands at 92 billion light years, but in reality could be as much as 23 trillion light years. To put that in context, 1 light year equals 9.5 trillion kilometers, or the distance light travels in 1 year at a speed of 300,000 kilometers per second. As impressive as these numbers are, we don't stop there. If the universe represents the macrocosm, then by looking inward, we now enter the microcosm. If we were to take the human body and put it under a microscope and zoom in as far as we could, we would ultimately arrive at the atom. The atom is the building block of all matter, both here on Earth and throughout the universe. How small is an atom? 1 human hair is approximately 0.1 millimeter in diameter. Along this diameter are 700,000 carbon atoms. On the tip of this one hair, you will find 390 billion atoms. Scientists have calculated that the human body contains approximately 7 octillion atoms. That's a 7 with 27 zeros. Now, to give you some idea of those numbers, if you were to enlarge every atom within the human body to the size of a human hair, that is 0.1 millimeter, then lay them next to each other, they would stretch out into space for a distance of 300 trillion kilometers, or 32 light years. We can continue going smaller still. There are protons, neutrons, quarks, and then we come to the Planck length. How small is that? If we take the observable universe, which is 92 billion light years in diameter, and then place 1 Planck length within it, in scale, the Planck length would measure 0.1 millimeter, or the width of 1 human hair. One could be forgiven in thinking the universe to be bursting at the seams with incalculable numbers of atoms, but no. The density of matter in the observable universe is 0.1 atom per cubic centimetre. In other words, for every cubic centimetre of space within this universe, there exists a solitary 0.1 atom. At this present time, our understanding of what makes up our universe is that all matter accounts for only 4%. The other 96% is made up of what scientists have labelled dark matter and dark energy. Of this remaining 96%, nothing is known. I believe man to be the bridge or interface between the macro and microcosms. If we look out to the manifest universe, we see that it stretches out in all directions to infinity. And by the same token, if we were to turn our gaze inward, we are again presented with a similar infinite horizon. They say a picture speaks 1,000 words. Well, here are two. The first is the latest computer animation of moving neural connections within the human brain. The second, a recent simulation of the structures that make up our cosmic universe, featuring both matter and dark matter. We now come back to Earth and see a world governed by the 4 seasons. Rich in both natural wonders and immense destructive power. Man is the dominant species here. He comes into this world but never for long. And invariably he must exit. Even though his time here is but brief, mankind's evolution has seen him in the last 200,000 years evolve from a caveman through to building civilizations. And now, within the span of 120 years, has taken to the air and reached into space. Contained within that same evolution are the seeds of his own self-destruction. So ends my brief summary of consensus reality. Before going any further, I want to take a moment and lay the foundation of what has led me here, in essence, to document a confession. A confession of what I believe is the underlying truth that is reality. I came into this world some 60 years ago, and when still very young, my mother walked out of my life, never to return. Subconsciously, I began a search for a part of me that I felt was missing. It was as though I carried a wound that would never heal. At this point, we'd all raise our hands and declare in unison that love was the missing piece. And yes, even though I believe that, I have also come to understand that without that missing piece, there would not have been the impetus that was needed to propel me into a lifelong search for the meaning of existence. When I was 12, I came across a book on meditation, and remember still the strong impression it left. I believe that book set the wheels in motion, and to this day have never ceased to turn. That book was followed by many others. Hermann Hesse, Albert Camus, Carlos Castaneda, Joseph Conrad were just some of the authors I read whose characters embodied the outsider, or what I like to call the square peg in a round hole syndrome. Those books gave way to the religions of the world, not the exoteric, but the esoteric, the inner dimensions of Christianity, Buddhism, and Islam. St. John of the Cross, the Desert Fathers, the immortal peach of the ancient Daoists, and the Sufi's quest for union with the beloved. These were just some of the doors I opened whilst living a life not unlike yours, with all its drama. But that thread was always there, sometimes strongly felt, sometimes barely at all. It led me further afield in search of teachers, gurus and masters. Anyone who could, as in the parable of the little fish, who went in search of this mysterious thing called the ocean. But no matter where he looked or who he asked, no one could tell him where or what this ocean was. And like that little fish, I searched and searched, seemingly in vain. Then one day, when in my early 30s, and whilst simply sitting under a tree, I had what could be called an enlightenment experience. Within what seemed a timeless moment, a curtain was lifted, and what was revealed was a tapestry of light that connected everything. Or better still, the light was everything. There was no separation of objects, including myself. All was one. This feeling was total. Not only my mind, but my whole being witnessed it. It then ended, and the world once again took on its familiar appearance. A gift that was given, and I knew that I had done nothing to bring on this gift. The euphoria of that experience lasted for some time, but like most things, has faded into memory. What didn't fade was the knowledge of what the face of truth now looked like. The years have passed, and even though that experience has not repeated itself, what has been added have been a number of insights, each one a stripping away of what I thought or believed this world to be. We have now come to the present moment, the edge of tomorrow. And it's here that I enter uncharted waters. Now is the time to summarize the culmination of a life lived. A lot of what I'm about to say can be supported by the esoteric or mystical writings of any number of spiritual traditions, but not all. When in my mid-20s, I had what I thought at the time a profound insight. It was that without me, there could be no universe. I was both the center and creator of this world I saw each morning when I awoke. And if I did not wake up, well then, the world could not come into being. 40 years later, I now see how close to the mark that insight was. Another way of saying it is, if I am, everything is. If I'm not, nothing is. Consensus reality tells us that when we die, the world and the universe continues, as it has done for the past 13 billion years. This concept is easily supported by the fact that we see death happening all around us, and yet the world continues. Who could argue that? This film started with the question, what is reality? Within those spiritual traditions mentioned earlier can be found many a clue. Here are just a few. God wanted to know himself, and so created the world. There is no God but God. All is Maya, illusion. Be still and know that I am God. Know thyself, to know thy Lord. I am that I am. All these clues are pointing to the same thing. There is only God, nothing else. The word God can be substituted with many others. Allah, the Self, universal consciousness. Brahman, Buddha nature. All depending on the spiritual tradition it arose from. So what is the meaning of this life? I believe it's to find out who, or better still, what you truly are. Now let me share a story. Imagine for a moment that God, or what I will call pure consciousness, dreamt a dream, and within the dream decided to play the character of a human being. For the duration of the dream, and to support the dream character, a world and universe was fashioned. So realistic was the dream, with all its colour and diversity, that our dream character soon forgot that he was in a dream at all. And yet, within the dream were clues and other telltale signs that could, if one but had eyes to see or ears to hear, lead the dream character back to its true identity. And like the king who dreamt that he was a beggar, only to wake up and find out that it was only a dream, so it is with this life. What lies hidden in plain sight, and yet is closer to you than your heartbeat, but rarely recognized? Consciousness, or pure consciousness, is the true face of reality, the pearl of great price, hidden under a veil of separation, an illusionary veil, held tightly in place by one's firm conviction that one is a separate body-mind identity, with a limited consciousness, surrounded by a world of others, in a material universe that continues even after death. Held captive in a world of never-ending appearances, seemingly real, a prison of one's own making. And as in the story of the rich man who asked Jesus what it would take to enter heaven and gain eternal life, and Jesus answered, "Sell everything you have, give it away to the poor, and then follow me." This the rich man could not do. And so it is with the pearl of great price. The price is your very self, your identity of what you believe and take yourself to be. If I believe in all that has been said, I now have to acknowledge that all is myself. There truly are no others. It is the alone with the alone. I am the dreamer and the dreamed. All that appears in this dream can only be myself. Not this limited body-mind identity, but pure consciousness alone. A game of hide and seek. I hid myself in creation, in the hope I would be found. Can any of what has been said be proven? I think not, as any response can only be part of the same dream. So how does this dream end? I don't know, but I can imagine the ending will reveal itself when it is indeed the end.